Oh, hey there. For as long as I can remember, ninjas in pop culture have always been cool. It didn't matter if you were a kid or an adult, there's always been something so appealing about ninjas. And with that appeal, it's no wonder that they found such a great home with video games. For decades, we've seen ninjas come and go in this medium. In the 80s and the early 90s, we had games like Ninja Gaiden and Wrath of the Black Manta, Strider and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and countless others. As we entered the Polygon era, we started seeing games like Tenchu, Stealth Assassins, and of course, the 3D Ninja Gaiden that debuted on the original Xbox. However, after the third Ninja Gaiden game released in 2012, ninja-themed games started to go dormant. You'd see a new title here or there, and of course they'd pop up as enemies or side characters in various video games, but it definitely seemed like people started to get burnt out on the overabundance of ninjas. Then, 2018, out of the blue, a little team called Sabotage Studios released The Messenger, an 8-bit platforming side-scrolling action game inspired by the likes of Ninja Gaiden and Castlevania, but with a twist. The game was unique for its ability to have the player seamlessly swap between 8-bit and 16-bit modes. The game is beautiful and a fresh take on the retro platformer. A year later, we saw the release of Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice, From Software's pseudo-successor to the Tenchu series, with a faint aroma of Dark Souls flavoring it as well. And just like that, with these two games, ninjas were back, and they were cool again. But this video isn't about any of those games. No, it's about another ninja game. Because you see, during the downtime of ninja popularity, there was a person who was brewing up something of their own quietly in the background. A game started by a drawing in 2011, but not released until January 2021. This is just another video about Cyber Shadow. So what is this game and how did it come to be? Well, we'll start with the latter. As I had mentioned, it started with a drawing. In 2011, Arn Meka Skull Hunziker drew a picture of a ninja floating in a tank planting the seed of a game that wouldn't sprout for years. Originally believing that nobody would be interested in an 8-bit game, this would be upended in 2014 with the release and subsequent success of Shovel Knight. After musing as to whether or not he'd be able to make this game, he eventually set off to work on it in his spare time. Originally not wanting to have a publisher, that changed with an invitation to Yacht Club Studios. A game that he originally said was finished and playable in 2018 received a quality overhaul, improving it over the course of 3 years, finally releasing in January 2021. If you haven't caught on by now, Cyber Shadow is another 8-bit retro-themed action platformer, inspired by the likes of Ninja Gaiden and Shadow of the Ninja back on the NES. While it's an 8-bit game, it has a lot of modern conveniences, like more fluid sprites and layered parallax backgrounds. I'm a pretty big fan of Shovel Knight, because when it came out, it really scratched that retro platforming itch for me. I was also at PAX East 2019 when Yacht Club unveiled their latest project, and of course, I was instantly intrigued. However, when I saw what it was, for some reason, it just wasn't really jumping out at me all that much. It might have been the timing, because Cyber Shadow made its public debut just half a year after the release of The Messenger, so at the time it just felt really uninspired. I didn't know much about the title, its history, or the fact that it's entirely possible that the brainchild that is Cyber Shadow existed well before The Messenger was even thought of. But unfortunately, these things don't really matter when it comes to first impressions. I figured it was a game that I'd probably check out, but it was nothing that I was really chomping at the bit to play. I went on to play The Messenger when I could snag a physical copy of it on the PS4. I platinumed it, and then I got the DLC and did everything there as well. That was in 2020. Then, the lull hit. Yeah, I've been playing games here or there, but there'd been nothing to really scratch that retro itch anymore. But that all changed in January. I was browsing Twitter and suddenly saw the reminder from Yacht Club that Cyber Shadow would be releasing in a few weeks, and currently had a pre-order deal going on. I figured, why not, and snagged it for the PS5. To my surprise, that meant I also got a PS4 version as well. My first, arguably dumb, thought was, well, this is really cool, I could platinum twice if I like it. Afterwards, I just had to play the waiting game. Each time my PS5 went on, I'd see the countdown ticking down as to when I could play this game, and I felt my hype slowly building. Then, January 26th, the shackles fell off and I was finally able to dive headfirst into a new 8-bit adventure. It took me all of 5 minutes to reset my file because on the second screen, I killed the robot companion, and worrying that he might have been important or might change an ending in the game, I went ahead and deleted the file and started all over again. Cyber Shadow starts off rather bleak. You are Shadow, a ninja awoken from a slumber in a tank, told that the world has gone to shit and that he needs to fix it. The music here is dark and even a tad creepy. But this is the perfect tutorial area, as you quickly learn the controls. You aren't told the controls. You can only move forward, so you do just that. Oh, there's a raised piece of ground here? Jump on it. Got it. Oh look, a wall. But there's a shiny little mechanism over here. Let me just attack it and oh hey, it opened up. Cool. Then there's the final vertical spot that gets you immediately used to the height and distance that Shadow has with his jumps. After that, you enter the door, ride the elevator to the surface, and... Holy shit! I don't know what's happening, but I am all about this! The slow build of the music as you get closer to the surface, combined with that dynamic punch to start the track off officially, you just know this is going to be fun. And honestly, it really is! The world of Cyber Shadow is dark, bleak, and depressing. It feels like what the real world looks like in The Matrix, a dystopian cyber hellscape where humanity has already been lost. Normally, that's not an aesthetic that I'm all that into, because honestly, it's just that, depressing. But here, in the world of Cyber Shadow, when combined with the music written by Enrique Martin and produced by Jake Kaufman, there's a constant feeling of hope. Music to me is a very important aspect of video games, and can either make them or break them depending on the quality. There's a reason I have no desire to play Yoshi's New Island ever again. I quickly noticed that this game, much like Shovel Knight, had a built-in feat system, which I assume was one of the things that Yacht Club brought to the table, and I'm all for it. Each feat is translated into a trophy, and I told myself that I was going to get them all. I found myself constantly checking the feats list to make sure that as soon as I got to an area or boss that required me to play in a special way, I did just that. Which means yes, my first time playing stage 1 of the game, I did it as a pacifist run, because I needed to get that sweet, sweet trophy. This probably made playing the game a bit harder than originally intended, especially for the don't kill bugs in the elevator part, but I was all about that. Shadow starts off pretty bare bones. But story-wise, that makes sense. He was woken up, presumably too early, and is really just barely clinging on to life due to this. So starting off, you can do two things: run and attack. That's it. If you search around for breakable walls, you might find some temporary upgrades like the blade extender, but these only last for 3 hits. However, once you beat the first real boss and rescue one of the ninja from your clan, you gain access to the shuriken. Beating bosses typically rewards you with either a permanent upgrade to your HP, or a ninja from your clan bestowing you new abilities, such as wall climbing, running, parrying, etc. Soon enough, you'll find yourself dashing around at high speeds, slicing through enemies, or pogoing off them, and really feeling like a ninja. The difficulty feels just right. The game can be completed without any sort of upgrades, but getting them certainly helps making areas of the game a lot more manageable. When you die, it typically feels like it was your fault, not the game's. Like maybe you hesitated on a jump, or you got too greedy trying to get that extra hit on a boss, or you just had to blitz your way through an area while ignoring all the enemies, only to get ransacked by them all later on. There are numerous checkpoints, and a lot of them can be upgraded by spending the credits you collect, allowing you to start off the next area or boss with full HP and SP, and sometimes even a bonus weapon. There is no set way to beat any of the bosses, and no matter your playstyle, you can typically find a way to conquer them that works best for you. The art direction and level design is eye-catching, even with such dark colors being used. It really leads to you wanting to explore every nook and cranny, hoping to find those upgrades to your health and SP. If I had to critique any points design-wise, it might be with the more basic enemies, because a lot of them just kind of exist to me. I didn't really find myself taking in the design choice and going, oh, this guy looks cool, like I might do in other games. It's not mandatory, but I feel a good rule of thumb is to look at your enemies and go, could any of these be mascot worthy? Mario has Goombas and Koopa Troopas, Mega Man has Metools, Shovel Knight has the various slime and skeletons. Again, it's not absolutely necessary, but a lot of the minor enemies in Cyber Shadow are just like sharp-looking robot bug things. They fit the aesthetic, but they aren't exactly memorable either, but that could easily just be a me thing. The bosses, however, are really great, and every single one of them stands out to me, with each one having their own unique theme that plays during the fights. The pixel art that is showcased in each boss fight is also super impressive. When it comes to the fights themselves, I feel like if you've played a Ninja Gaiden game, you have an idea of how they're going to go. You'll either steamroll them within the first couple of seconds, or you'll be obliterated yourself trying to do it too fast. Most enemies and bosses have very little iframes, so it's pretty easy to just spam your strongest attack and watch their HP drop. But if you're not careful, they'll give you the exact same treatment. Most of the times that I died in the game, it was purely because of my own impatience trying to blitz a boss from the moment the fight started. You absolutely can take a step back and learn the attack patterns each boss has and punish them accordingly, but it's honestly just so fun to try to beat them as quickly as possible with the various techniques you learn. As for the story, I mean, it's there. I feel like for the most part, I understood what was going on, but so as to not spoil anybody, I'm not going to go too deep into it. I do feel like a lot of developers in the last 10 years or so have fallen into the whole show, don't tell method of storytelling, which can work if your world is very large and immersive and you might have items that give additional lore. But for games like this, there's just a lot of flashbacks, or story elements are told via computer logs that are blended in just a little too seamlessly to the background. Sometimes you might find a corpse on the ground that might give you a little bit more information, or you're just not told anything and you're supposed to figure it out for yourself. I don't mind that, but in a game like this, I did find myself asking a lot of questions, which is good. It means the story is engaging. But it's also like, yeah, okay, cool, but could you just tell me what the connection is with Subject Alpha and the Locket? Because sometimes it's nice to just have definitive answers. Ultimately though, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's definitely something that, after more people get their hands on it, I'll probably browse the internet and read people's theories on who certain characters were, etc. My final thoughts on the game? It's an absolute gem, and I've already played through it 4 times. Twice on the PS5, and twice with the PS4 version on the PS5, and I platinumed it both times. The built-in feats are fun and feel rewarding to accomplish, and each time I finished the game, I was brainstorming ways that I could do it faster. When I first played through, I got 100% of the upgrades and did every feat that I could. The second time, I did a no death, no upgrade speedrun for the final 3 feats I was missing, and that was brutal, but fun. When I decided that I wanted to do it again on the PS4, I played it differently. This time doing a 100% no-death speedrun first, and then finishing the final feat by casually playing through the game with no upgrades. And I had a blast every single time. Funny thing is, in all of these playthroughs, I found myself finding the e-reader last, so I still have no idea what that item does. When it comes to the PS4 versus PS5, I played both versions on the PS5, but I didn't notice any differences between the two, except for one very small area on the PS4. There's an optional spot where you must cling to the walls and climb up a vertical shaft with moving spikes above and below you. For whatever reason, only on the PS4 version, this area was a little choppy. I'm not sure what caused it, but everything else on both versions was buttery smooth. I did mention in my last video that I found out that this game has amiibo support for the Nintendo Switch, which, as I already went on to state, I'm not a big fan of when developers add in version-exclusive features tailored to people who got the game on a specific console. As it stands, I don't know if the PlayStation, PC, and Xbox versions will be getting anything different as well, but it is just a small, irksome thing, specifically for me. My overall verdict? 9.5 out of 10. For what this game wants to be, it's practically perfect, and I'm excited to see what sort of updates we get in the future, because you don't call a mode normal mode without plans of including a mode that's not normal later on. The half a point lost is really just a petty point for me, and it's entirely because of the version exclusive features, which I assume is really just a Yacht Club thing. I really like the company, but I don't agree with that practice in general. So that being said, if you're on the fence about it, don't be. Get it. It's a great game, and soon enough you'll find yourself just like me with the song stuck in your head. My initial feelings about this game were way wrong, as it's certainly not just another ninja game. It's a practically perfect retro masterpiece. And this is just another video about Cyber Shadow. I did mention in my last video. Thanks, Midna. You just fart on me?